Welcome, ghouls, demons, and fellow weird ones. And here we are for another episode of the Tale Behind the Art series. And we are going to start with, let's see, we are going to do Goddess of Shadows, Victorian Woman, and what did I name this one? Oh, Metamorphosis. All right. So I started grouping them up. Too many single individual videos. So these are just longer videos with multiple projects in them. So I don't know what flow is better. Sometimes I feel like I either make things too long or I break things up too much. And I don't know if I'll ever figure out that balance. But anyway, let's begin. So, Goddess of Shadows. This one. This one was super fun. I was experimenting with the black sheet. And I started, so this was the original idea. So I know I'm kind of like going out of order, especially because of how the mosaic tile looking piece of my portfolio is. But Bewitched and Hallowed Be Thy Name actually were after Goddess of Shadows. These were the same day. Goddess of Shadows, Bewitched, and Hallowed Be Thy Name. I shot them all at the same time before I went to work at the clinic. So that's super fun. This was one of those things where I was like piling up my mornings so I could work in the afternoon to go deal with kiddos and Angie and all of the above. So glad that that's over. I miss my kids. I miss my kids. Don't miss Angie. Don't miss anything about that clinic except my kiddos. And I will grieve them forever. Just even being my role as an OT. And this kind of highlights a lot of that. This Goddess of Shadows, like what the collection kind of represents, is it was this crowning, like, and you see in the photos, like there's a crown, it's one of my candle like tower vessels, but it looks perfect enough to hold, like it's like a torch, like a really elegant torch. And so I was just really coming to this awareness of more death and grief and like identity and attachment like releases. And part of what I wanted my OT career to leave me so badly. And I was like moving away from it, but it was almost like I was pulling away from it, but it was like there was like a tight elastic band that kept trying to pull me, and I had to just keep going until it snapped. And arguably the weirdness between Angie and I is what allowed not for it to snap, but for me to just fucking cut it. Like there's this thing that I see in people's eyes, and I'll just like give this away. But if I notice, it's not always immediate. Some people I see it immediately. Some people are really good at hiding it until a certain period of time. I don't know exactly where I would be at. I haven't noticed anyone who has it outside of my father. And my father, I never saw it in his eyes until just a couple months ago, when I saw it in January, when I saw him before we went to Norway. And it was only in a certain moment that it finally like was clear to me. And Angie, I didn't notice it in her and right away either. Like I said, I thought she really understood me as a spiritual person. So I'm still kind of in this like delusion that certain people of a certain caliber are supporting me. But anyway, so like I'm in this, it's this understanding, like this was I think all around could have been around like Halloween, moving into the winter solstice, any time. I don't have like an actual date. I do. Not really. But it's Sagittarius new moon. Okay, so that makes sense. Like that. So the Sagittarius full moon, they talked about all those rituals and everything that I went through ritualistically there. To now this Sagittarius new moon, where I'm really like I feel like at this time I'm answering my call in a different way. Like it could be, how would I describe that? So I guess I could say in my life I've known that I was a princess of the underworld. Metaphorically, I don't know how else to describe it. So I could understand that I was metaphorically a princess of the underworld, and I had this like special power and potential and role and spirit, whatever. I had this purpose. But I lived my life like I was kidnapped, okay? And so maybe I just gave up on that dream or understanding of myself, or you could even go Rapunzel about it. There's a part of me that didn't know until I did know. And like there's so many different ways it all it all kind of comes together. But so then, like, there was this awareness of like, okay, well, this is who I am. And kind of that shock of like in the Princess Diaries where she's like, I'm a fucking princess of another country. And I can do all of these things. And then you kind of start learning what it takes to be a princess. And it's kind of like that trial period. Like, do you want to be a princess? Are you ready to be a queen? Like, could you do all these things? You got to go through the training. And then it was, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then there was like, okay, so you're a princess and you're going to be a princess and you're accepting your title. And now you're doing like princess duties. And it's like, well, now it's time to Princess Diaries 2. Now it's time for you to be the queen. And it's like, fuck, now I got to be the queen. So this was kind of my acceptance of being a queen of the underworld, right? Hey, children, thank you. That was a big boop, Hazel. I heard that. That was such a loud boop. Um, Jesus. Anyway, so it's kind of like accepting this call. And like, especially as things in the clinic weren't going as expected, I wasn't making the money I thought to invest in the way. And Chad was pressuring me to find another job. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I was just in a lot of like these in betweens, and I say I was in these in betweens. I could care less. I was just really genuinely at its core. No matter how much I tried to humor my husband or anyone else for that matter, I've always been just like focused and committed, and everything else has just been annoying side quests for me. And I will engage in a side quest, but at this point, it was getting really aggressive and reluctant. And so this photo shoot, I'm getting excited about the silhouette piece really kind of pushed me forward. And like, okay, I'm writing more. I've released, or I was getting ready to release my books at this time. I want to, maybe I want to say I did release them. So I released my books and now I have this, and I'm like getting really excited for who I am. Because I released The Black Dragon. That's when I started to notice a shift in Angie. I didn't see the thing in her eyes. But I noticed the shift when she read my Black Dragon poem, because I released my books and then things were weird and I wasn't getting hours and like wasn't making the money I thought I was going to make and whatever. So I'm just redirecting, and it kind of trying to shut out everybody, diving into myself. So the underworld, right? The blackness of the clip off, the tunnels of set, all of the different things. But I'm crowned. And so there's the crown, there's the torch, like Hecate is passing on the torch to me. And now, not only did I go through the underworld blind without a torch and experience all of those like trainings, well, now I have the torch and I'm going through the underworld, and now I'm seeing it in a different way. So there's so many different themes, and it's very difficult to explain this spiritual healing experience and the cycle, because it's not linear. It's a spiral and it's a labyrinth, and sometimes you're back where you started, but you had to go back that way to get to this way, and it's an illusion of all kinds of things. It's fucking trippy, to say the least. And so with this, I don't know, I had this rose headband, and I got this idea that I could like put it up like as a garter, and I like put it up the side, and then I did some edits, but I was trying to, because I released Melanoe. So there's this understanding from a psychedelic trip that I talked about, where I was told in the trip, you're the daughter of Hades and Persephone. And I go through this whole process of learning who the daughter of Hades and Persephone is, and the connection to Hecate, and like all of these different things that are occurring in my weird spiritual world. And so I'm kind of trying to embody that sense of balance, especially stuff that I went through in that Libra cycle. and that recalibration of my inner scales and, continuing on. So this is Sagittarius New Moon 2024. So I have one more year of my Pisces Saturn return. And so I feel like this was kind of like a graduation step. Like, okay, you did great your first year, bitch, or year and a half. It's like, look, holy shit, because it started probably between retrogrades and all this crazy stuff, because it started in 23 and then all of 24 and all of 25. Why was it forever? They say it's 2.5 years. That was a full 3 years retrogrades, most likely. Fucked me up. Anyway, so this kind of seemed like a next step, like a milestone in my life at this time. And Sagittarius is huge, inner child, Hierophant, my ninth house energy, all these different components of myself that I'm trying to integrate. It's very difficult. Lots of emotional, psychological work. And I have my husband's flowers that he got me at our anniversary. So I'm using those. I have the flowers, and then I have the rose headband like garter that I created because I wanted that symbolism, but I didn't want it to just be like a perfect split. I wanted it to like intertwine. There's a lot of serpent energy. I knew we were getting ready to go into the year of the snake. This was concluding the year of the dragon. And after I released my 4 books, my 3 for my nieces and my first anthology, I was at the end of the year, and I was like, fuck yeah, by the astrological new year, by the spring equinox, I can release the Age of Dragon. And I had that idea of like where I had other ideas where I was going to go on top of my candles. And I was just ready. I was just ready for my candles, so I could do everything. I was so ready for just the clientele. I realized I not in the clinic taught me I'm not meant to be in that area of a clientele role. I had to shift a lot of it's not that I was doing the wrong thing. I was just doing it in the wrong way because that's not how I'm meant to be doing those talents, gifts, services, and all of the above. So I'm here and I'm sitting with all of this stuff coming into my awareness. And so I create this like goddess of the underworld. I call it goddess of shadows. And so it's me showing a lot of love to my 8th house stellium. I am an Aquarius in the eighth house. So there is that like scorpionic energy, as it's probably, we might have been still in Scorpio season at this Sagittarius new moon. I can't remember how it landed. But it could have also just been a conclusion of the Scorpio. It was also, that's a conclusion of the Scorpio moon, the Scorpio lunar cycle. But there's all of this kind of Scorpio shadow, subconscious element that I'm wanting to show a lot of love to. I'm embracing a lot of things that I see that are beneath the surface, and especially Pisces energy, being able to see in the ocean at all layers of depth of light. You have to have special eyes and special talents. And so I think I was finally kind of coming into embracing of all of those things. But the idea itself was to just be this goddess of shadows, like this welcoming of me into the underworld. Like I finally felt like I returned home to a sense. I felt like not I felt like I was exiled from the false home. Right? So like the tower, Rapunzel. I left the tower and I was on this adventure, and I'm at the kingdom. But I'm not fully welcomed into the kingdom yet. But like maybe this was a taste, or maybe this was me being welcomed into the kingdom. The timeline gets kind of loose, especially talking about now in 2026. But the seed of the insight was there. And it's just continued to blossom and grow in the darkness. But there's a lot of insights that were coming in, and I thought this was fun. And like I messed around. I had Canva, and I messed around with more editing to like incorporate. Like I wanted like vines and shadow and spooky. Like I really wanted to incorporate what I would think between the infernal realm, the goddess hell, like the Norse version of like the underworld, and then Hades in the underworld, and like all of these different symbolisms that I'm kind of trying to connect. And then my connection to Hecate. This was a lot of connection to Hecate. I'm even drinking from the chalice, so it's like an Ace of Cups. So there's tarot symbolism, but then I'm also I'm drinking the flame, and the flame is, it's a rite of passage into my own internal flame. So in like Luciferianism, it could be embracing the black flame in certain regards and maybe ways that I wasn't fully initiated into. There's a lot of symbolism. And some of the poses are me just kind of like dancing or flowing into it. I also wanted it to kind of look like someone. And so, like, what was that movie? Apollo 18. So it's like a horror movie where you're on the moon, people are on the moon. And there's all this like flash, and like in the flash, you see nothing, then you see something, and you see nothing, you see nothing, something, and it just kind of gets like progressively freaky. So I kind of also wanted it to seem like that in certain poses. So you just see this like fairy goddess. So like I have a crown, but then there's phases where I don't have the crown. So it's kind of like the whole journey through the underworld and different levels of transformation where like, Persephone, she was a nymph and now she's the queen of the underworld. So similar energies, but I had like a fairy crown situation, like, and there's a lot of Maleficent and Fae energy that I don't always fully talk about. I don't always understand my connection to the Fae, but I can't deny them. And as I say that, somebody. Anyway, so I kind of wanted so there is like the poses, like the kind of Statue of Liberty, Statue of Liberty poses, which also represents a certain level of freedom. There's a lot of symbolism in poses. Me drinking the flame, the different colors, the black, the white, kind of showing the yin yang, all of that. But then there's some I wanted to show people, like I said, like some of the darkness, so that I tried like getting into some creepy poses and not just having like beauty, but like horror and that more terrifying aspect of like the rage of the divine feminine female rage, right? But also sorrow, and just like I wanted it to be eerie and haunting. And I argue that I still don't fully know how to make like a good face like that. There is more, this one's more nudity, because it's also like going into like the suffering. So I imagine, to an extent, roll with me on this, but like, because Jesus, he was stripped naked and whipped and like crown of thorns and like taken through us. I don't know. Some people may say he wasn't naked. Me, I don't know. I always picture like him, like, and I picture that you're stripped of everything. You're down to your flesh and you're bleeding and you're miserable. And so I wanted that to also be part of it. And in like this the darkness, and then there's this light being like either coming from me or being like flashed onto me. And like as I'm suffering, because a lot of the experiences in the underworld, you experience deep levels of suffering of your own psyche, and it's quite haunting and disturbing. I wanted that element in there within the beauty of everything, within the nudity, within the sensuality, just a full spectrum of the female experience, I guess. Kind of like some silly moments, like I'm like there like wanting to look deep in thought, and then like I was discovered, and it's just kind of like human bothering me again, or soul bothering me again. Like there's a lot of different interpretations how I like wanted to express this, and there's some like just sadness, like will I ever be found, like this, just this lost beauty that's meant to be witnessed but not touched, and other symbolism. So it's a full spectrum of everything. There's a lot of photos, and there's a lot of different poses, a lot of different edits. I did keep some of like I did duplicate a lot of photos just because I liked the way the edits looked. I felt like some of it, to an extent, could be like Egyptian, like maybe Egyptian Book of the Dead, like not really a mummy, but like a pharaoh, in the like tombs of the pyramids. Like they're just like the way I was moving. Like there was just certain movements that I would make, and part of it was just that what I call body poetry. You're just like intuitively feeling into how your body wants to flow, and whatever that conjures up energetically is something that maybe none of us will ever truly know or understand outside of our own intuitive interpretation. I don't know how much science will catch up to all of those representations of chi. Even as I talk with my hands, it's creating something and it's doing something. I know that there is a reason deep within my subconscious and my unconscious mind as to why I talk with my hands and not in a like a signage way. I don't always feel like if people couldn't hear me, I don't know if they would be able to determine what it is that I'm saying based off of my hand gestures. And I also say, well, this is the Italian side of me coming out. I talk with my hands and I can't help it. I really can't. So I feel like that all kind of comes out. So there could be like ethnic expressions to a full spectrum. I feel like different lighting and different facial expressions and different angles and all the above really show the full spectrum that is my family lineage and all of the ethnicities and cultures that embody within it. On top of me being crowned this queen, princess, goddess of the underworld and of the shadows. Excuse me. I'm told that I am a master of the dark arts, and I love that. That could very well be my purpose with the eighth house energy, the Aquarius energy. There's a lot of different reasons why I would say that. Rebecca told me that a lot. I do feel like I have an act for helping people through the underworld, through their subconscious plane. But I've also learned that sometimes you gotta abandon people. Not that I abandon people, but if people get so fucking freaked out that they don't stay with me and they run off, that's on their own. So what is it like Riddick or Pitch Black? There's a movie. Was it Vin Diesel? But I think he's blind or he can see in the dark or something, but he has to like navigate people through the darkness away from all these like monsters and stuff. Feel very much like him in certain elements. And so this is a great representation of that. Alrighty. So we have that. Okay. And now we have, let's do Metamorphosis. So this was, okay, I just put 2025. I want to say this was like the Cancer full moon to January 2025. I know there was an awareness. I don't think it was in alignment with the Chinese New Year or that the lunar sense of the year of the snake. I started working and completing my lunar zodiac, the Chinese zodiac, and that more Asian culture with the Age of Dragon. When I got my dragon runes, I was aware that there was going to be this there's this dragon symbolism, right? So I was connecting to dragons. I can't remember what year that was because I'm still learning. I would say I've been fairly proficient at like tropical astrology, Western astrology. I just don't fully relate to it, but I incorporate it in a lot of my studies. But the Lunar New Year, the Chinese zodiac, that was something that was fairly new as I was connecting to dragon energies. I got my dragon runes, and dragons were just everywhere for me in so many different ways. And then we were moving into the year of the dragon, and that seemed to be quite loud for me. That's when I started and I felt like I was initiated into this other realm of the zodiac, and I love it because it's lunar. Well, it's lunar soul. How do they say that? Lunar solar, loony solar. I don't know. Um, but it's more of a moon connection, and I argue I'm Saturn. I'm moon ruled because of my Cancer rising, so that's like the first house. So you could say I'm ruled by the moon, but there is like a moon Saturn, what synastry or conjunction? I don't know. I can't think of what you would prefer to use in that context. There is a combination of Saturn and the moon. And I would argue that Saturn is the black side, the yin, and then the moon is the yang or the light. But you could also reverse that, especially with my Cancer Lilith, and also your interpretation of black and white, light and dark. So I just love how it's like the infinity symbol. It just constantly weaves in and out, which goes into more dragon symbolism, the dance of the dragon, and all of those fun things. And so I really started that Chinese astrology and zodiac study. And when I released my Age of Dragon book, it was an initiation and a commitment to at least a full cycle. So from dragon to dragon, of these poetry books that I'm going to be releasing. So that's what, 12 years worth of work already had laid before me that I don't know what would come up in my life for me to not commit to that, or to turn my back on that. And I say that I really don't want that to be something that I disrespect in the future. But as of right now, as there are no absolutes in life, I just don't know. That's the plan. And it's something I really hope to honor as respectfully as possible. So with that, I knew we were moving to the year of the snake, the age of the serpent, and I started that initiation. I have a snake skin like bodysuit. It's like sheer in the back, and then it has like the stereotypical like bronzish earth tony snakes pattern, and it's like a deep V. I had two. Victoria's Secret sent me two of the same things a couple times. And this is from 2017, 18. One of the last times I ever got anything from Victoria's Secret before you start to learn all kinds of crazy things about them as company and whatever else and blah, 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 fast fashion. And so I still have this piece. One of them was chewed up. I wonder why. And Mr. Bayless, when he was a puppy, when he's a real small puppy, oh, buddy, I didn't mean to wake you up or disturb you. You're okay. You're not in trouble. You were a rambunctious little guy, weren't you? Yeah, I chewed up a lot of stuff. I sure did. Yeah. But just because it's only when you guys were gone and because I missed you and I was afraid I was going to get abandoned, You never chewed up anything when we were home. It was always if we were gone for more than 2 hours. Like I figured it out. He had a tolerance threshold and we had to figure some stuff out. He's a good boy. You need boogies. You got some of the most intense eye boogies of my life, Bubby. So anyway, I put this on and I thought it would be a good idea. And it didn't work out. I mean, I sat on this shoot forever. I didn't delete the photos. Because there was something about it that I was just like, maybe I can make it work. Maybe I'll eventually figure it out. But I didn't like how they turned out. I just wanted the snake shedding to look better. And I think you might need like a full bodysuit. I might have needed something different. But you can tell it's a bodysuit with like the little flappies that go in between and like just certain parts of it. Like I just wasn't overly thrilled about. So there's a lot of photos I didn't keep. I did limit it. I think there's maybe like 15, maybe 13. I think I left it at 13 because I like the symbolism. But yeah, so anyway, all that is supposed to represent the initiation of shedding the skin and moving into the year of the snake. And then I didn't post it. I just put 2025 on here, but I posted it I think Scorpio season of 2025, but I know I took them like sooner. I took them pretty quickly in January. I remember like the Cancer moon. I remember the Chinese zodiac being significant. I remember all these other little details. But I remember sitting on it because I also felt like I was getting a little too redundant with some of my portraits. And, Chad had commented on a couple of things and all constructive, of course. Anything to make me better. Doesn't mean I liked hearing it. But I was just like, okay. So I just kind of like, about them and I didn't put them on my portfolio and I kind of slowed down with a lot of my art in that way. But I also, like, as far as portraits and photography and stuff were concerned, because I also super started doing events and markets and all kinds of things. Because at that same time, Angie brought up the flea market to me and like getting started with that and this and like, oh, this could be, really good for you, blah, blah, blah. And so I got really busy tackling the markets, which that opened up a whole world of things. And it got me further and further. Like it was, again, that slow shedding of snake skin, the wood snake too, right? So is clearing the path out, so slowly clearing the path that my OT career was in the way. So I can also view my OT career. Okay, so Age of Dragon. So more Sleeping Beauty symbolism. So I'm just a Disney princess. So I'm the princess, but I'm Prince Philip fighting the dragon during the Age of Dragon, and I'm going through the thorned woods, the year of the snake, would be, so it'd be like my OT career was me going on my path through all of that, those thorns, and like just, I'm gonna go no matter what. I'm making my way through. And then the wood snake would be like me clearing away from my OT path as it slowly removes itself away and sheds itself away. So interesting symbolism, saying reflection. But that is kind of how I dealt with the metamorphosis and the age of the serpent and that symbolism. So now we have the Victorian woman, which I use American Woman song from what Lenny. Sorry, I don't know. I like trying to think of pronouncing that. Was he fucking yeah. So anyway, I used during the Cancer lunar cycle, there was a lot of this essence that came through. I got this gorgeous Victorian deep red slip dress that had some lace. It was a deep V in the front and the back. I loved it. I wore it to the Franklin flea market. It was so elegant. I really, really loved the dress. And so I had this idea of, so it's an American woman who's a Victorian woman in this modern world who wants to be living in ancient pagan Europe, but with modern technology. Cause like I am a princess. I love my luxuries. I won't deny that. But anyway, so I wanted to try to set up like a really cool like ritual with candles. I have these taper candles that someone had gifted me, and I wanted to incorporate them. And we have our ritual death and like just a lot of things that I wanted to put together. I kind of I wish that I could have done maybe a little bit more aesthetically. Like there's some not really junk, but like because we're limited in our apartment space at this moment in time, it's hard to store everything. So I felt like some stuff looked kind of cluttered and I wasn't like the happiest about it, but I thought I could edit it in a way by like, putting my sheet over things, and it wasn't fully working. So I kind of just really liked, or I didn't like, but I decided to lean into and force myself to like what it would be like to modernize it and just be authentic about this is my real life situation. I am a real life like witch cult practitioner. These are real ritual. I had music, so like I do music a lot. That's where black metal comes into play, is with a lot of my ritual work. But in this one I was doing typo negative. And so that kind of also leans into the Christian woman. And again, Victorian woman, Christian woman, American woman, all of these different themes and symbols. And so there's a Cancer element to it, dark divine feminine, Lilithian in a sense. But yeah, it's me dancing, because a lot of rituals that I will do has music and candles, and it's me dancing and just surrendering to different energies, I suppose. There's always like an intention and like a flow to everything, but to not give everything away, the gist of it is I'll dance. So I was recording myself dancing and flowing and just leaning into Christian Woman, or Bloody Kisses. That's the name of the album. Yeah, I have it right here. So I was leaning into that and just flowing through what all that represented, especially cleansing the womb, healing any of those womb wounds that I have. Again, more Cancer, Lilith essence. I mean, you can more Saturn return, like just that is what a lot of my rituals were within that healing element and attaching it to astrology. But doing this in phases during the Cancer lunar cycle, you can kind of see a lot of that water element. You see, like my dogs, my cats are incorporated into it. It's just me and my life. And I guess embracing and embodying myself as who I am without too much, what's the word? Like I wasn't, as staged and set up as it was, it's very similar to my podcast. And I believe I started my YouTube channel Was it around August, September, maybe? So it wasn't too much longer that yeah, it was Leo season. Because I'm pretty sure there was, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Leo season because there's a significance to the spotlight, the moon, this breast is so short. It's beautiful. I love it, but definitely not something to sit in for too long. Anyway, it's definitely something you need to move in because it's not forgiving when you sit for some reason. Anyway, so it kind of set the tone after Riley ambushed me, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing a podcast. And so when I was thinking about how I would want things to be set up, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it regardless of how perfect it is. I'm not going to wait for a studio. I've never waited for things to be perfect for me to do that, even though I've wanted to have like, okay, well, I need this, I need that, blah, 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 blah. Like when I first started my podcast with Phoenix, like this very first was supposed to happen and then never ended up happening. I mean, I had money. I wasn't financially strapped and I had like a steady job, and Chad for the most part was steady. He was starting his like rocky career journey. And so anyway, I bought chairs and I bought like a rug and I did a whole setup. This rug was gifted to me at the flea market, and I didn't have it in some of my earlier like video recordings and stuff like that. But anyway, I was just thinking about what it was that I would want things to look like. And I remember how I perfected it. And I had like I have my altar in the background in my room, and it's pretty much the same thing, but I felt like I had a studio because I at least had my own crafts ritual space. I had like my candles stuff in like one corner, then I had like my altar and all these things in the other wall, and then so it just felt like it could be set up different. And I was like, there's not much difference in doing it that way and doing it this way. It's kind of more, I just don't feel that I was able to control it as much. Essentially, I mean, it's almost the exact same setup, just minus a fake friend and someone who's intimidated by collaborating with me. And I have a better rug, and I think my animals are more present. Like I kept the animals out. I didn't have their beds there, but the cats would be in and out. You know, Doyle would be in and out. So I don't know. It's really not much different. It just was delayed. And so I think that this was really cool for me to kind of just get out of my head about these portraits and these art pieces that I wanted to create, because it wasn't looking like a professional studio. It wasn't looking perfect and curated, but it was looking like me. And maybe I was afraid of it looking like me. Maybe there's something I was just realizing all the judgments I have against myself because like, well, I'm not I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a billionaire. I don't have all these fancy things. I don't have all this stuff. Which is all an illusion to people on social media anyway. But I didn't feel like people were gonna like what I was doing because maybe it was too average, it was too because I don't like average. I like extravagant. But I guess maybe I make the average extravagant. I don't know. I want extravagance in my life. This is not where I will remain. As beautiful as I make it, I have bigger dreams, and I feel like I would get caught up in those big dreams and not really appreciate the present moment. So I'm trying to just enjoy the process. And when I do get to those big extravagant dreams, when I do have maybe that picture perfect studio, and like I think about Joe Rogan and how he started doing his podcasts, like recording with his friends in his living room, which is, I'm doing it with some of my friends. There's a couple friends. Most of it's been by myself. A lot of it has been with my friends in the spirit realm and my familiars. And nothing has stopped me, even being by myself. At least, if I say, oh, at least Joe Rogan had friends. I do have friends, but not in that same way. Like I thought I was going to have more people be guests. I thought it was going to go a little bit different, not to copy his recipe or fucking anything, but I just always felt like I needed a soundboard. I needed something to kind of keep me on target. As we found out with Riley and Rosemary, it doesn't matter. And it is fun to talk with people, and there are dreams of being able to talk with people later, but I have a gift of gab and I might as well embrace it. And I think what part of it with like Phoenix, is I'm so long-winded that maybe people feel like I overshine them. I don't mean to. I don't mean to interrupt people either, but I do need the space to be able to say everything that I need to say. And one of the best ways to do that is to just be active by myself. So anyway, this Victorian woman, there's a lot of self-love, a lot of healing, another breaking of a shell, of me stepping out of my shell and into the world and being seen in a variety of ways and just letting loose and not being, I guess, not being so, not even really fear, but worry, uh, disappointment, anger, like that it should look better, it could be better, like the shoulda, woulda, couldas, and just getting lost in what I know I could make it be if I had all the resources in the world, what I know I could create. I can't let that hold me back just because I don't have it. Because the way to having it is by doing it without. And also learning how much power you have without resources is really empowering, lightning, and all of the above. Damien Eccles, he talks about it like when he was on death row and in prison, that it was one of the best karmic things that he could experience was being isolated and it was good karma to be isolated and having to learn things without all of the tools and maybe even resources of education. I've taught myself a lot of things. There's a lot of, personal gnosis, because I've had to sit with myself in deep meditation. I've had to put myself in trances. I've had to do a lot of things and I've had to create my path for myself, which is the whole point of Wyrd, WYRD curations and me and everything. It's all about the individualistic path. It's the left-hand path. It's the path least traveled. But I'm also realizing mine's even less traveled because it's my path that I've created. Every step forward is me making the path. Despite everyone and anyone who's influenced me along the way. And so this Victorian woman was a drag path back to myself, but an awareness that I'm creating the path for potentially anyone who dares to follow. But as I always warn people, you may not want to do it the way that I did it. You may want to be cautious of how I inspire you because people tell me I make it look easy, and I love that compliment, but it has not been easy. The last 30 years of my life have not been easy. It's been beautiful in a lot of ways. It's been ugly in a lot of ways. I've found beauty in the ugly pretty easy. I tend to that tends to be another superpower of mine. Not just seeing the good in everything, not all those psychological conditionings that my brain calculated for me to save myself, but I genuinely believe that I see a full spectrum, and I do believe that even in the most vile of beings, there is some good, and I also think that that is why vile people get away with so much because of these deeply layered complexities that is the human experience and psyche and spirit and the morally ambiguous rules of the universe. So anyway, all of that is expressed in these ritualistic photos. And that's just like more of what like I wanted my like photography to be. It's rituals recorded and captured for people to experience. And rituals don't always look like what I think people think they look like back to Metamorphosis, that's where I was trying to curate my ritual experience. Instead of just doing the ritual and going through the motions of shedding the skin and setting that intention out there and doing all of that, I was so hard trying to curate this picture perfect like thing that I could do with money and technology and props and all of the things, right? But to do it with what I had, to do it with pretty much nothing, I was disappointed, which is why I feel like it took to the end of the year for me to really appreciate what it is that I have. But at the same time, I have been rebuilding my closet. I've been revamping myself. The goo phase that was the Age of Dragon was slowly put back together during the Age of the Serpent. And now, the Year of the Horse, at the end of my Pisces Saturn return, I feel like we can see the unicorn who's about to fucking take off. So I love seeing the difference in how I to not worrying about anything except the reality and the truth that is my life, who I am, my circumstances, and everything in between. And it's still beautiful, it's still creative, it's still artistic. My life is art, and no amount of money in the world is ever going to fix that. Um, it can make it better, you know, there's fun things that money can do, but I've definitely have been forced into a huge shift of relationship to money along this journey. And embracing myself, my self-worth is not attached to money. And that goes into the Victorian woman who feels more like a past life of this, you know, high ranking, wealthy woman who had all of these things. Because I know that that is like within me. It hasn't always been expressed, you know, through all of the different realms of poverty or middle classism that I have experienced. Like I said, to hear my husband talk about how he was poor, because he was poor, the poor of the rich kids, and I look at him and I was like, I just it's all about perspective and where you grow up. And I've always been in the middle. So anyway, all those ramblings aside, I'm gonna quit yapping about that. Thank you for listening. That was the tale behind the art of Goddess of Shadows, Metamorphosis, and Victorian Woman. Cheers.